I want to tell you about our friends at digitalrealestatecoaching.com. We've been working with them on our website. They know their stuff. This is a coaching program that teaches contractors how to generate new customers online without paying for marketing or advertising every month. It's also more than that. It's a way to learn about an interesting new business that I could see being a pretty cool side hustle for a lot of horse players, learning about the brave new world of digital real estate. This is a terrific way to promote your company and learn about a very interesting area of business online. Check it out, digitalrealestatecoaching.com, digitalrealestatecoaching.com. Hello and welcome to the In the Money Players Podcast. This is our show for March 19th, ahead of an exciting weekend of racing. Going to be covering races from the fairgrounds and out in California on this show. I'm your host, Peter Thomas Fornatal. As you can see here in the Brooklyn Bunker, once again, our ABR trophy now proudly over my shoulder. I have the real one. JK's is a replica. He's going to be here a little bit later on. But we kick things off talking to a man who's one of our most popular guests whenever we have him here on the show, coming to us from the great state of Louisiana. He is professional horse player and all-around good guy, Frank McGoey. Frank, how are you today?
I'm doing good, brother. How are you?
I'm doing great, but we got a little camera angle issue. I want you to show people the shirt you're wearing there. I think it sums you up pretty well.
I dress for the occasion.
Showing off that degenerate horse player T-shirt, our collaboration with Old Smoke. I imagine you get a comment or two when you wear that thing around.
I do. I got another one that says, I've got another one somebody gave me that says, I like horse racing, beer, and like 3 people. And I get a lot of laughs on that one too.
I really enjoy having you on always, but especially now, 1 year, into the pandemic. I really have to tell you, Frank, in all seriousness, your voice of optimism and stick-to-itiveness and, frankly, all-around degeneracy was very helpful to me personally during the early days of this thing, and helped me get some distraction and get stuck into the Fawners and Will Rogers and Tampas of the world when they were the only show in town a year ago. I imagine for someone optimistic by nature, such as yourself, you're really feeling pretty good about where we stand as we get ready to run into the rest of this 2021 season. Is that fair to say?
I really do. And I actually was thinking about it. The more that, the talk of vaccines were coming out and everything, I was thinking, in the horse racing world, we were lucky. We had a horse racing vaccine of sanity into our lives during this whole thing. If it wasn't for horse racing, I would have gone nuts.
Yeah.
We were really lucky. So
it's a great point. You had pointed that out at the time. It remains all the more true now, and I'm looking forward to this Kentucky Derby season. Do you picture yourself? You're a regular Derby goer. Do you think you'll be able to get back this year, or is that going to maybe be a bridge too far for a guy who just moved and has 18 things going on?
No, I mean we could do it, but we decided we were going to wait till it's wide open.
Gotcha.
I had talked to Gary Palmisano, and he said that they were going to do like maybe 40% occupancy in the room we normally go in. And we just decided, let's wait till it's all over.
No, fair enough.
Big party here.
Yeah, there you go. That won't be a bad way to fly at all. Let's talk about these 4 graded stakes races, Frank. I know you don't have a ton of time today. And folks interested in more, JK and I recorded a little Let Loose show about these same 4 races. You can get our thoughts on there, but let's face it, Frank is the guy you want to hear from when it comes to this stuff anyway. If you're interested in his thoughts on the undercard, you can check them out over on In the Money Plus. We cover the first 9 races over there. InTheMoneyPodcast.com/plus if you want to get access to that material. And I recommend that you do. You also get digests of all the shows, the different picks that we talk about over on the Plus service as well. But let's kick into these stakes races that we didn't cover on there. I didn't prep you for this one, actually, Frank. I think we said we were just going to talk about the 4 graded stakes that close out the card. But did you have a thought about? Did you happen to have a thought about the 10th race, the Tom Benson Memorial?
I think this race is incredibly tough. I wind up taking a stance, not so much on a single horse, but against a certain race. The more I kept looking at it, and there's just too many question marks on horses coming off layoffs and things like that for me to be in love with anybody. But I just decided that I don't want anybody coming out of the Dalica race, the Alstall Memorial, right? The Alstall Senior Memorial, which Alstall Junior won, by the way. I was at the track that day, and there was an inquiry. The horse of Nacho Correa's had significant trouble, probably was going to win that day. But it wasn't Al's horse that followed him. And people were saying, oh, the Al's horse is coming down. I said, if you think Alstall Jr.'s getting taken down at the fairgrounds in the Alstall Memorial race, I'm giving you 100 to 1 right now. Let's go. That wouldn't happen. Right.
No.
But I just decided, but Dalica is a little in and out. And I guess I learned my lessons with that following her the second time. And I just decided that I wasn't so sure about the depth and quality of that race. And I think there's other horses here that are on the improve or could run back to past numbers that would have a better shot of winning. That's all. Not a strong opinion, but in picks, I'll be using the 2, Dominica, Logic and Reason, who looks like a horse that's going to be forwardly placed and that probably has another forward move in it. She looked good in that race at Tampa. She finished with her ears up. Winter Sunset. Everything I'm hearing about Winter Sunset is that Winter Sunset's doing really good. She runs back to some of her numbers, and she's 2 for 2 over this course. She could be a bomb.
20 to 1 on the line. Yeah, that's a number.
Russian Mafia would have to have the Russian Mafia fix this race for her to win. I think Winning Envelope is a horse that 5.5 is just too short. And I think that horse is going to come running, and Ortiz is jumping on. He's got a shot. And then Dream a Little Dream of You is a horse that's getting good. I was impressed with his dirt race last time, but he's run some numbers on the turf last year that he'll have to improve, but I'm going to use him. And Summer in Saratoga, who's done nothing wrong, but is coming off a layoff as well. So 2, 4, 5, 10, 11, and 13 is who I'll be leaning on for, multi-race plays.
And you can get away with spreading like that when you're against the favorite, I would imagine. If I held your feet to the fire to make a top pick out of that sextet of runners, who would it be, Frank?
It would probably be Logic and Reason because of where he's going to be positioned. I just think that he might be up close enough to what's not a really hot pace, and maybe has another forward move in him. But not strong at all, Pete. Not a strong opinion at all.
Gotcha. Let's move on to the first of our graded stakes. The grade 2 New Orleans Classic goes as race number 11, 5:12 Eastern, the scheduled post time for this one. Some interesting stuff here. How did you see it, Frank?
So my overall thought was that there's no pace in this race, looking at it. Roadster's coming off of a year layoff. Very unusual to have these back-to-back 6 furlong works from Mike Stidham. I don't remember ever seeing that. And actually, I heard that one of them was a 5 furlong work, and they just gave him the gallop out. So that's a pretty good gallop out to report 12-3 for his last work. I was talking with somebody else that was thinking Giroux's probably going to get aggressive with Owendale like he does in a lot of these races and try to keep him closer. But anyway you cut it, there's not going to be a lot of pace. And I think it's noticeable that Saez has got the mount on Chess Chief, who last time was kind of bottled up a little bit in the back with Graham, angled out and finished okay. I think, there's not – Dallas isn't going to leg up Luis Saez. I don't think anybody does and say, let him fall out the back and make a late run. That's not Urata for that, right? So I think those two could line up, Chess Chief and Owendale, and coming from the back is going to be tough in here. I put the race 6-2-1-8, but you know, I would imagine whoever's first and second going into the far turn is going to be tough to beat if the pace winds up being the way it is that I think it'll be.
It sounds like you'd be more apt to press the 6 and the 2 and the 1-8 more as backups, the way you're looking at it.
Correct, in case they would happen to get involved some way, but I really don't see that happening.
I like your scenario. I think those are the two who make sense to show speed. That's a great point about rider tendencies. Luis Saya is certainly one of those riders who wants to send everything. And Giroux, interestingly, while not necessarily certainly not known as a dead send guy, we've seen him on these big stakes days have fantastic success with these aggressive rides, particularly for Brad Cox. So I like the idea of them trying to get aggressive. You look at pace figures in here, Owendale not far at all from what it's going to take to make the lead. You couple that with the rider tendency. I love your idea of trying to make this 2-6 to the hoop. Let's move on, though, Frank, to race number 12. We've got the Muniz Memorial Classic going 1 1/8 on the turf. Race number 12. How are we going to get through this leg?
I think it's 3 horses. So fact of this isn't going to have to deal with the Baker horse. His name's not coming to mind right now. The one he struggled with last time, but wrestled with. The comment I put on him last time, and that was a heavy yielding turf course. The only 2 races they ran on the turf that day were this race and the Philly race on the turf. My comment on him was pressed inside, fought on well. He looks like he's going to control the pace, and Bridge Mahan rides his horse the same way all the time. We're going to have a fast, firm turf course tomorrow. The weather's going to be great. He's going to be a factor, no pun intended, with the name factor this. And it'll probably be the horse to catch turning for home. Of the 2 coming in from the Pegasus, well, there's 3 coming in from the Pegasus World Cup. This was my big swing. I know we had talked Pegasus week. I needed Colonel Liam and Cross Border to finish 1-2, and I probably would have finished at least second in the Pegasus contest. They had a big exacta. Of those 2, Colonel Liam got a much better trip. Cross Border was off the rail, and you needed to save ground that weekend at Gulfstream the whole time. So I could see Cross Border flipping the tables on Colonel Liam. I think those 2 are the other 2 key players. A horse I think everybody should look at as a upset horse or maybe a real bomb is go watch the replay on 2 Emmys last race, who literally never got to extend herself, was never given her head the whole race. Bottled up in traffic from start to finish and was absolutely loaded when they hit the wire. In his 2-back race, he held off a horse called Durain of Cox's, who came back last Saturday and was really impressive. And so 2 Emmys is at the top. Has never been better than she is. A really live outside chance. And the other horse would be Pixelate, who's also coming out of the World Cup. And has 2 starts over the fairgrounds, is going to appreciate that long stretch and will definitely come running.
There were some good ideas in there. I was a big fan of Colonel Liam you're absolutely right that the trip was great, but man, on closing sectionals, can that thing fly late? But you see it as a little more complicated than that, and you have a couple ideas of good price horses to mix in underneath in the 7 and the 12. I like your ideas there. Let's keep it rocking and rolling and move on to race number 13. It's the Fairgrounds Oaks. Big Kentucky Oaks implications potentially in this one. I had trouble separating 5 of them, ended up in my column over on attheraces.com, settling on a bit of a price in here. How are you going to get through your leg? What's going to be your approach? Do you think all of these 5 that I'm talking about who will be at the top of the market are live? Or how do you shade them?
So the 2 coming out of the Rachel Alexandra, which, by the way, I heard, I didn't realize it until I heard the stat somewhere. 14 of the last 25 Oaks winners came out of the Rachel Alexandra. Did you know that?
I didn't know it was that many. I mean, I know I could name a few of them who are good, including the one the race is named after. But that's an amazing stat.
It really is, and I think the top 2, I think Clariere and Travel Column, are both going to move forward off that race, and I think it's significant that they both did it without Lasix, which they're going to be again, tomorrow. A horse like Little Tootsie, who is up and coming, is going to have to try to do it without Lasix. And I don't think that the quality that Little Tootsie beat is anywhere near as good as the top two. The other horse besides Clariere and Travel Column that caught my eye was Obligatory, who had significant trouble in that turn in that race at Gulfstream. Was able to pick it back up, and came running and looked like a horse that would appreciate more ground. Funny story, when I was talking to Mike Deliberto yesterday, he said, I asked him if he had seen Obligatory on the track. And he said, now that I think of it, that must have been the horse that Donnie Winfrey was talking about. Because Donnie Winfrey said, look, Mott's got Tacitus here. and Mike said to Donnie, no, Tacitus isn't running in this weekend. It had to be this gray filly. And if somebody confused a 3-year-old filly for Tacitus, she's got to be pretty imposing individual,
No doubt about it.
Yeah. So those are my top three. I'm going to give a little bit of an edge to Clariere because I don't know how tight the screws were, and we were still able to get it done last time. And I think she'll take a significant move forward off that first effort.
I like your thoughts in there.
I'm going down with those three. There's too much of a gap. I mean, I've been dying for Super Sensational to get a new rider. David, what's his name? Declan Carroll. I mean, his last two rides won't be on his highlight reel if he has a highlight reel. But there was just too much of a gap between the top two and Super Sensational and Moon Swag to see me making up any difference, and this quick.
Frank, let's move on to the main event of the day. It is the Grade 2 TwinSpires.com Louisiana Derby, going this 1 3/16 miles for 3-year-olds. A really interesting field of 8 signed on in this spot. Very curious how you see it, and also to ask, how are we going to get paid in all these late picks at the fairgrounds on Saturday?
I think Mandaloon's going to be the horse to beat for sure. I thought he really looked like a much more mature and much more focused horse last time when they put the blinkers on, and appreciated the added distance. And I think it's significant that 1 3/16 miles is going to be a bit of a separator for some of these horses, and I think he'll appreciate it and move forward again. And he's going to get that trip that Giroux just has made a living off of, sitting out there in the clear and pull the trigger when he's ready. He's going to have his target right in front of him, just like a workout, and is going to just pull the trigger and be tough to beat. That's my opinion. I like the experience that a horse like Hot Rod Charlie has. He was in a fight last time in between horses and stayed on it. His last 2 works on XBTV looked really good. He's coming in here, has to have a shot at running a big race. Proxy, who is getting blinkers on. If the blinkers help Proxy the way they help Mandaloon, he can be a threat to the top, to Mandaloon. I'm not sure that he's as good as Mandaloon, but I think he is definitely an improving horse. I think Mandaloon is really good. And the other horse that is really interesting is Run Classic, who happened to be at the track when he made his debut on January 16th. And this was, Run Happy was suffering his lumps for a long time. Like, he's not throwing any horses. And Calhoun's assistant, who I'm friends with, kept saying, we got one of those that can really run. We got one that can really run. And so I had never seen him, but I happened to see Brett that day before the races. And I said, hey, Peaches says this horse is okay. And he said, yeah. He said, come to the paddock and see him for the race. He said, he's such a big horse. He's going to want 2 turns, and the one hole is not going to do him any favors. And I went to the paddock, and he was not lying. This horse is gorgeous and long and big striding. And I think the February 13th race, I think that was the biggest win bet I've made the whole meet there. That he was stalking inferior horses. He couldn't lose to those. He won't have that tomorrow. He's not going to have, he won't be stalking inferior horses, but he's licensed to take another step forward, and he's a really good horse. So he's one that, could maybe light it up. Definitely can get a piece.
I'm very glad you said nice things about him because I actually picked him in my At the Races column for this race. That column is geared towards fixed odds, and we've got fixed odds people listening. So Run Classic, we were just talking about, available at 12-1, and critically, with 8 runners in here, that means you got a chance to get a quarter of the odds if he finishes in the top 3. So I think each way on Run Classic, that's not a bad deal. If
That's
you're
a no-brainer. He's definitely at that price, at that morning line. He's definitely the horse for that play.
Yeah,
sure.
hopefully he'll come through for us, and hopefully the price. Well, if you're a fixed odds person, get on now because I have a feeling that number is going to come in. So you mentioned 4 in this race. Is it more that you've got Mandaloun as your lone press, and then use the 5-4-3, or how would you grade him?
I've got it. So Mandaloun is the key for me, and then I'm putting the 5 and 3 over the 4. I'll press the 5 and 3 exacta more than I will the proxy exacta. I think Run Classic and Hot Rod Charlie. So when I send out rundowns, Pete, I usually put slashes behind horses to separate my opinions. So this race, I put it 6 double slash, 5-3 single slash 4.
Gotcha. Okay, that's great. That's very helpful for me as I send our little notes out to the readers. Now that sounds like you're talking much more about verticals. Does it often work for horizontals too? Like in your view, you'll have a lot more Mandaloun picks, and then maybe a few 5 and 3 picks, and then maybe like a safer line of 4 picks, or are you looking to be more stone cold to the 6 here?
I'd probably use proxy as a horse as more of a saver, and I would be using Run Classic and Hot Rod Charlie that I can still show a profit. Probably not as significant. I'll have Mandaloun on more tickets. Mandaloun's gonna show up tomorrow. I promise you.
I wouldn't be surprised one bit. Definitely one that we got to contend with that Run Classic each way idea. All right, Frank, I know you've got other engagements to get to today. We're going to let you do that, but thank you so much for coming on. Thanks for your help over on the plus side as well. And we'll be texting throughout Saturday. Hopefully it's going to be a great day.
Get lucky. Let's go.
Before we move on to our next segment, I want to let you know that today's show is brought to you in part by our friends from Lone Star Park. You got to pay attention to Lone Star's upcoming meet, especially what they've got going on Memorial Day. Big stakes-laden card, and there's also going to be a tournament, and a bigger tournament than what they've done in the past, talking about a $2,500 live money event, and there's going to be 8 guaranteed NHC seats with 1 in 10 odds. Now, if you want to play in the NHC and have that experience, that 1 in 10 ratio is something you've got to be prizing. You've also got $15,000 in cash there as well. Memorial Day weekend, that's Saturday and Sunday, May 29th and May 30th at Lone Star Park. There's going to be $500 buy-in events leading in to that big one, which is going to be going down on Monday, May 31st. This is a reason to travel for tournament players. For more information, check out lonestarpark.com/handicapping-tournaments. You can also find that, if it's easier for you, on our site. Just go to inthemoneypodcast.com/Lone Star to find out more. You can also play in qualifiers for these events. Check them out over on horsetourneys.com. We're going to get on with the show in the moment, but just want to let you know that we're very happy to be working once again with our friends over at twinspires.com. They've got a cool bet back promotion this weekend. You can check out all the details, but basically you're going to be able to get $10 of your win bet back if your horse runs second or third, depending on how many runners are signed on in the race. Here's the thing, you got to opt in. So go to twinspires.com or the TwinSpires app, go to their offers tab, make sure you opt in for that one. You can also check out our other show this week, JK and I going over the Fairground Stakes races over on Let Loose. There'll be an audio version of that in our stream at some point. You can find that through social media as well. I'll make sure to tweet that out at Looms Boldly, or you can just listen to the audio and or watch the video, depending on where you are getting your media these days. Check it out and make sure to opt in for this bet back offer through the TwinSpires app or via twinspires.com. We just got to talk about Lone Star Park. Speaking of the planet Texas, now we're bringing in a man who hails from the very same place, probably pretty likely to be playing in that Memorial Day Lone Star event. As I think about it, you see him there on the screen next to me. He's the People's Champion, Jonathan Kitchen. JK, what's up? I see you're proudly wearing your Longhorns cap.
Yeah, the tournament starts today, and so Texas obviously is in the mix. 4 seed, Big 12 champions for the first time. Well, won the Big 12 tournament for the first time. So things are going in the right direction. We'll see if they can make a little bit of a run. The only problem is they're in the same bracket as the team that I picked to win it all. So I guess that lets you know how I feel about the chances.
Are you going to leave us hanging there? Are you going to tell us? Now, the other day you were withholding because you were worried about people putting their picks in, but surely by the time the show posts, all the brackets will be in. You don't have to be so coy. Some of us just like to bet on these games individually. Who should we be looking at this weekend?
Yeah, I picked Alabama to win it all. Back in December, I bet Purdue to win it all. So on opposite sides of the bracket, those are the two teams that I'm rooting for the hardest in terms of getting it done for financial reasons. I'll be rooting for Texas as well. So I think Alabama is pretty good, and they're a lot of fun to watch as well. So if you're not a huge basketball fan, you'll enjoy watching the Crimson Tide this year in the tournament.
All right. I'm going to hopefully be following you in there. It doesn't look like I'm going to have the bandwidth to get any brackets in on time, which I feel bad about. Just too much going on between fantasy baseball drafts and the Cheltenham Festival, the usual workload, Stronach 5 carryovers, etc. Give that a quick plug too. If folks are listening to this right when it drops, and this is going to be irrelevant for a lot of the audience, so apologies. But we've got this Stronach 5 carryover on Friday night, Friday late afternoon, East Coast time. Encourage folks to check that out as well. We did a whole show on that. Plus members can get the little digest if they're in a hurry. But we are here to talk about Saturday, and we're going to do what we typically do on this show. We're going to talk about the late pick 5 from the great race place, Santa Anita Park. Then we'll fold in the 2 races that comprise the golden hour races from Golden Gate Field. So you can play that golden hour pick 4, that golden hour double. These are player-friendly terms in both of those bets. Those higher minimums that make it harder for the computer players to dominate. And also, most important of all, low takeout, churn-inducing, player-friendly wagers that I know, JK, you're a big believer in. But we'll get to put a pin in that. We'll get to those in a minute. Let's start off by talking about this Santa Anita late pick 5 sequence. We'll kick off with race number 5, 6:22 Eastern is the scheduled post time. We're on the turf going 1.5 miles. Very carefully written starter allowance conditions. Those of you who are a condition reader or freaks will already know who I'm picking based on the fact that I called it carefully written. But let's start off with you, JK. Who is going to win this 5th race at Santa Anita on Saturday?
Yeah, there's 2 horses that I think that are drawing the most attention for me, and that's the 2 and the 7. The 2 Red King obviously has shown his ability to get this distance, these longer distance races out in California on the turf. He's not the fastest, but I like his inside draw. Should be able to work out a nice little position. There doesn't seem to be a ton of pace in this race, and that's the other reason I wanted to use the 7 Tartini. This horse actually could take advantage of the pace, could find himself on the lead. And Mark Glad, I think, is sneaky good out in California, a guy that I think you want to pay attention to. He's winning at 19% this year. But I think that's obviously a pretty nice number for a guy who's not traditionally a high percentage trainer. So those are the 2 that I was going to build around. And I thought the 3 was worth an opportunity as a B type, another tactical one with Flavian Pratt down toward the inside.
I was hoping to get away with just using the 2 Red King, looking like the one for our pals at Little Red Feather and their partners. Barely qualifies for the race under conditions because of that claiming effort just in the time window. And I think this graded stakes winner just likely holds a class edge over today's rivals. I agree that it's not a figure-wise layover, but this is one where I think I'm going to just play that class angle. I think the ones you made sense, you mentioned, also make sense as potential backups, but I'll be putting most of my play through number 2 Red King as we kick off this late pick 5 at Santa Anita on Saturday. Race number 2 in the sequence, I should say leg B. It's always easier to go to legs when talking about pick bets as opposed to using 2 different sets of numbers. But leg B is Santa Anita's 6th race, 6:55, the scheduled post time for this contest. We're on the dirt going 1 mile and a 16th, 3 and up claimers, 16 down to 12.5. And I thought that number 2 Street Behavior was the one that I wanted the most. I thought just looks very strong when you cover up the races and the PPs that aren't dirt races. And I felt this one was didn't get the easiest trip last time, bit buried down along the rail. I thought could go better here. I also wanted to use the 6 Brazilian Summer. This is another runner I thought was a little bit better than looked last time, closing without a particular setup. Now second time off the long layoff in the second start for the new barn. And I did note that the career best effort figure-wise did also come in a second off the layoff start. Brazilian Summer I'm interested in. Street Behavior is the top pick. I also would not hate having the best of speed in the mix here, because both those ones I picked are going to be coming from off the pace. I'm just not sure who that best of speed is going to be. I had listed potentially the 1 and the 7 to use as Bs, but very curious to hear what JK has to say about this one. I could definitely be influenced to move some numbers around. What do you like?
Yeah, I was going to use the 2 and the 5 as A horses, the 2 Street Behavior, like you mentioned. If you look at that race 4 back down at Del Mar on the dirt, that number and that performance is going to be tough for them to beat in here. I'm not crazy about the inside draw. This horse got stuck down inside last time, didn't respond necessarily the way that you'd want. So hopefully that isn't an issue, because we'll end up probably getting a similar ride here. And then the 5 Zurich, this is another one where I just thought the last couple of races were probably a little bit better than they looked. The last time was wide all the way around there, going the 6.5. It should be the 6.5 prior to that. I'm thinking maybe the stretch out could help, could keep this one a little bit closer on the stretch out as well. Kind of keeps taking himself kind of out of the races in those shorter races. And then the 1 and the 7 were the B horses that I wanted, basically for the reason that you mentioned, just the type of horses that could end up loose on the lead at this lower level. Being out on the front end, in my opinion, is a huge advantage at this level. That's the difference. These are all talent. All these horses are athletes. I think the separation, and it's even probably very similar to what you'll see in this NCAA tournament, the separation between the best player at Alabama versus the best player at South Dakota State, it's not as big of a gap as you would think. A lot of it has to do with consistency and the kind of the want to and the will and having the right mindset. And I think it's very similar to these horses that are maiden special weight stakes types versus claiming types. It's that consistency and it's that mental fortitude to be able to overcome some adversity. And so I like horses that are going to be out on the front end that don't have to deal with all that nonsense.
I was sure you were going to throw in coaching as a factor that separates some of these college athletes. As a former high school coach yourself, how big? I mean, this is a total tangent, but hey, it's the NCAA, so what better time for it? How big of a difference between more prestigious programs and sort of lower tier, lower profile, I want to say, not lower tier programs, is coaching itself?
Well, I think that, there's an old saying that humble coaches might say, just to take the onus off of them, which is it's not about the X's and the O's, it's about the Johnnies and the Joes. And I don't care how good you are as a strategic coach or a motivator, you got to have players. And if you don't have players that are coachable and that have some talent, it's going to be hard to execute whatever it is you're trying to do. It's obviously it's an equalizer. It's a deal. It can make a difference. I kind of liken it to what Angel Cordero told me one time about jockeys, is that if there's a 10 race card, 7 of the races any rider in the room was going to win, and 3 of them the rider made the difference. I would say that could be the case in sports as well. Is 7 of the games, any of the coaches would have got them home in that situation, and 3 times the coaches made the difference.
That's fantastic. And you brought it right back to racing. That's how good he is, folks. Let's move on to our graded stakes race that we're going to be talking about in this sequence. It's the linchpin of this late pick 5 at Santa Anita on Saturday. Race 7, 7:25 Eastern, is the grade 3 San Luis Race Stakes. We're on the turf going 1.5 miles yet again. 4 and up, $100,000 in the pot. I'm super boring here, and it's your turn anyway. JK, how are we going to get through this leg?
Yeah, I'm going to single A the 4, say the word. Obviously, I think by the time that Say the Word runs, that last running line where Colonel Liam won the Pegasus World Cup, Turf World Cup, is going to look even better. I think Colonel Liam is going to continue to solidify his role as the best turf horse in North America. And Say the Word, to me, just it feels like the type of horse that could dominate this field. The distance isn't going to be a problem. I think that the horse will continue to improve, moving to Phil D'Amato's barn. So for me, it's Say the Word. It's not that I disrespect United. It's just that United has been doing this for so long and has been, running in these races and has a name that people recognize, trained by Richard Mandela, ridden by Flavian Pratt. We talked about it on our other show recently, kind of that public horse. He just always takes money. And I don't necessarily trust him. He's never won a 1.5 mile race in California. And he's always knocking on the door. He's won races around that distance, but he's not winning 1.5 mile races, and taking a short price on a horse like that, I think is hard to do.
I was gonna make him the lone A with Say the Word as the lone B. Like terribly uncreative. Nothing.
I was I'm the other way around, by the way.
Yeah. Oh, you will not.
Yeah, I'm not. In the sequence, I don't think that United's not good. I just think United is always overbet.
It's not. I mean, I can't really argue with that. I mean, I wouldn't say always. If you go back to the Breeders' Cup Turf a couple of years ago, when on our airwaves, not you or I, but someone far more clever than us gave him out as the key horse of the day at 50-1, and he almost went and upset the apple cart. But yeah, ever since that coming out party, if you will, it's 4-5, it's 6-5. Maybe if you're lucky, it's 7-5. But I mean, the horse typically gets hammered, obviously. But I mean, I'd say you're right. Even in the Breese Turf last year, the last time this horse ran, I'd say 8-1 was way over bet, really, into the teeth of those three gorillas from the other side of the pond who ended up, in there, and Channel Maker too.
I got an idiot friend that bet that horse United to win that race. I won't say any names, but he's been on these airwaves before. He knows who he is.
Let's see if you're talking about. I'm pretty sure you have made it pretty obvious who you're talking about, and hopefully we'll have him back on soon. He was very entertaining. We may need a 7-second delay or something the next time he comes on. But we'll at the very least a disclaimer. But yeah, I mean, for me, I just thought that the freshening would really suit the horse. I thought he'd get an absolutely amazing trip, and crucially, be positioned in front of Say the Word, who I felt like there was an opportunity. Now I'm going to be mean. I thought there was an opportunity, could end up 4 wide all the way around in the 5-horse field. Get my meaning there?
Yes, you and Benny.
No, I defended Mike Smith on the last show that we did, but I feel like I'm not making a knee-jerk mean comment about Mike Smith so much as knowing his tendencies, knowing the way this horse runs, and just the way I see the race panning out, I could really just see United getting a better trip. I mean, it's as simple as that for me. But I mean, I take your point, and obviously there's nothing to argue about here. One of us has it AB, the other has it BA. We'll call that enough agreement. Unless you have one more thought about this stake race before we move on to leg D.
Well, you said one of us has it AB, the other one has it BA. I'm curious which one you think has it that way.
Well, no, I just mean you've got. We talked about the two. Oh, are you just making fun of me?
Yeah, I'm saying I want to know, because if you have it AB, that means you think you're right. If I have it AB, then you're saying you think I'm right. So I'm assuming you think you have it right.
I just meant we were probably spending too much time on a race where we essentially agree and are just arguing over the nitty gritty of which horse.
It's a head-to-head. It's a head-to-head.
It is a good head-to-head. I like that idea. I will look to improve my all-time record against you. I've narrowed the gap a little. I think if I win this one, it'd be about 23 for me and 88 for you. So we'll see if I can. We'll see if I can get that job done in the San Luis Rey, and that does add a little bit of interest to me. I'll be more interested in that than whatever I end up betting on the race. Honestly, I'm getting back into it. All right, let's talk about this 8th race. 7:55 is the scheduled post time for this one. Dirt, 6 furlongs, 3 and up, Calblet red, optional claimers with a first level allowance condition. Gosh, I apologize. I'm also pretty boring in here. I felt like you could lock it up with the top 3 in the market. I don't really even have a preference in terms of order, but for the record, I'll make the 6 Curry the top pick, who I thought would be the best speed, second off the layoff here, and a quick looking work tab. The 4 for Telly, been running in some tougher races, according to the Timeform US race ratings. Protected here. Peter Miller off the claim. I mean, very obvious looking things. And then the 1 Wilson Monk, I thought was definitely worth mentioning as well. Live looking second time starter, closing well to win on debut, and sectionally looks like the last one, the best one late, and has the scope to improve. 6-4-1, put him in any order, lock this one up and move on. is it more complicated than that, Jonathan?
No, I don't think so. And I look, I think that it's, I don't think you're boring. I think that it's just this race is just not, it's just not the type of race where there's a whole lot to grab onto in terms of creativity. There's 3 horses that look to all be live. And if you're playing a multi-race bet, unless you have something more clever, you kind of have to use those 3 and protect. Now, here's what I will say. I call this a workout report race where, if you see 3 horses that are all pretty live, they all look great on paper. Sometimes that workout report can be the separator. A B+ work can have a horse kind of get upgraded to a double A or an A press for you. A C+ work can kind of have a horse get dropped back to to a B type of horse. So that's kind of how I'll reserve the right until I see the workout report. As of right now, I need all 3 of them, like you mentioned. But if there's something that kind of stands out from a workout standpoint, I could go that direction. Just to give a little bit more, Wilson Monk, first time out, ran big. You got to expect the horse is going to run better. Was wide all the way around there, and you got to think the horse will improve off of that, but I'm not crazy about the inside draw. The 4, Fratelli, look back when Peter Miller had this horse about 6 races back, and look how well the horse ran. You got to expect a performance similar to that. Second off a break, going back to Peter Miller's barn. But you're still hoping for a performance, so you can't really lock in there. And then the 6, Curry. This horse has some freaky good numbers. He did kind of regress last time, but it was first off a layoff, so maybe he'll run better this time. I love the draw towards the outside. If I had to lean on a horse, I would lean on Curry because you know what he is. You know what you're going to get. He's going to show up. He's going to run. He's drawn well. But the other 2 have potential to really jump up and bite him. So, like I said, I'm going to use all 3 of them, and I'm going to hopefully get away with that by singling Say the Word.
All right, 614. I'm going to list your numbers. You happy enough with that?
Yeah, that's cool.
All right, let's go to the pay leg at Santa Anita. This will also be the kickoff race for the Golden Hour double, with the race we just discussed, the 8th race, being the kickoff race for the Golden Hour pick 4. That's how that works. And here we have a race that's going to go off at 8:25 Eastern. We're a mile on the turf, 3-year-old maiden special weights. I had one I wanted to press up in here, but it's your turn to go first. I'm curious if you have this horse among your numbers. How are we going to get paid?
Yeah, I don't necessarily trust a lot of these horses that have already run long, and I'm going to give some horses some opportunities to stretch out here. It's something that it's probably not a winning recipe to always be looking for stretch out types in these types of races, but I do feel like the horses that have gone this far already, gone the mile, haven't really proven anything. For instance, Airman, right? Airman feels like a logical. He's always kind of taking a little bit of money. He's trained by John Sheriffs. This is his 5th start. His speed figures are just kind of okay, but he's had 4 chances to get the job done, going the mile, maiden special weight, and hasn't done it. Is he the type of horse you want to use as a B horse? Maybe, but I'm going to use the 5. No foolery here. Richie Baltas. I feel like I've seen Richie Baltas do this where he kind of just gives them a race around there, going shorter, then stretches them out. Flavian Pratt, drawn close enough to the middle of this field, should be able to get over and save ground. One of the things I like to do when you're having horses that are stretching out. So that'll be my top pick, the 5, no foolery here. But I also thought the 10 and the 11 were worth the conversation. The 10 stretching out as well for John Sadler. I'm not crazy about the outside draw for stretch outs. I feel like they don't get cover and they lose ground. Sometimes they're good enough to win. Eagle Chief feels like a B horse to me as well, just because of the draw. But I would say if he was drawn to the inside, I would probably pick him as an A type. And the 11, Enough Nonsense, is another one who, this is the same kind of idea that I talked about with Airman towards the inside. Had lots of opportunities. I think the difference here is that Enough Nonsense seems to have at least a weapon in his arsenal, and that is speed. Drawn towards the outside, should be able to work out a nice trip from there, having that tactical speed. And I just couldn't just single A the stretch out turf sprinter. I needed to have someone else who could be there when they turn for a home, and I felt like it'd be the 11, Enough Nonsense.
We have the same exact short list in this race, which is kind of funny. I eventually was going to leave out. I was thinking of leaving out the 10 and the 11 for fear of the trips that were going to be on offer, but you're kind of talking me into throwing them back in. I do like the idea of the hunch play exacta of Enough Nonsense and No Foolery here. That's one that maybe Frank Miramati can have some fun with. But I thought that No Foolery here was the right one. Just ran very well on debut and a good time. As you point out, a barn whose runners typically improve. The workouts look forward. The winner came back to frank that form and score at 1-5 versus overmatched foes last Saturday. Even if I save a little with the 10 and the 11, it's really going to be all about the 5. No Foolery here for me. And this is a horse that I'll definitely have pressed up in my golden hour picks and also in that late pick 5 at Santa Anita on Saturday. Speaking of the golden hour bets, let's head north to Golden Gate Fields for the race that will be the second in the golden hour pick 4, 8:10 Eastern, the scheduled post time for this one. Nice little race on the all-weather going 6, 4 and up fillies and mares, first level allowance types. I was very interested in number 9, Dr. Wysong in this race. Looks like there's plenty of pace here. Dr. Wysong looks the best closer. And I just really liked the last race. I thought that was a solid try. Downstate at Santa. Managed to hit the board in there despite being against the flow. Getting to the Sint. This race should help that running style play better. The added speed in the race should help that running style play better. I like Dr. Wysong in the 8th at Golden Gate. Okay, what do you like in here?
Yeah, that was a single A for me. You mentioned the speed. I see about 3 or 4 horses that have ones in the past performances, but their pace figures also match that. I think sometimes on the synthetic surfaces, you can get horses that find the front, but they're not really doing much to get there. They just happen to be there. It feels like there's some speed drawn towards the inside, and I love that outside swooping trip that Dr. Wysong is likely to get with the pace coming back to her and her being drawn outside. That was a single A for me in the sequence, and that kind of helps me a little bit more with that first leg of the golden hour pick 4, where we had the 3 horses that all kind of looked the same. The race where Curry was in and where we were going to use the 1-4-6. I can kind of get away with that if I can find a single somewhere else. And this is the single that I found.
It does feel like when it comes to pick 4 betting in general, you're a little bit more conscious of not wanting to give up equity by spreading than a bet like the pick 5, where it feels like you're a little more willing to spread. For you, is it really that extra leg that makes all the difference between the pick 4 and the pick 5, and why your approach, it seems to be noticeably tighter when it comes to the pick 4?
Yeah, I mean, I think the less legs, the tighter you have to be. If you're playing a double, you should never, ever play a double with the all button. I cannot think of a scenario in which you should ever play the double with an all button. Now, pick 3s, I think that it's dangerous to use an all button in a pick 3, especially if it's a first or a last leg, and you probably shouldn't be playing the pick 3. You should be waiting or starting and playing the double. And I think that when you get to pick 4s, you can maybe justify it in some terms. And then the pick 5 and pick 6s, obviously there's a place for that behavior. But I just think that you want to be as tight as you can, because especially in this day and age, the way that the equity is kind of taken out of certain pools based on the efficiency of those pools, it makes it really hard to spread a lot in those situations. So, yeah, I try to be as tight as I can, especially in pick 4s and lower.
What did you want in terms of backups? You said lone A as opposed to stone cold single.
Yeah, no, stone cold. I'm stone cold there. If one of those horses gets loose, then they get loose and beat me. But it feels like the pace is going to be honest enough. Horses don't typically wire at Golden Gate, even if they're loose with no pressure and don't have to earn it. It plays very similarly to a turf course, and I want the horse who has the best late kick drawn to the outside, that's going to get that clear run that seems to always win those races. When you close your eyes and you see a stretch drive at Golden Gate, your eyes tend to look to the left of the screen and say, who's coming to beat me? And it always seems to be someone towards the outside.
That's very interesting, and I'll just underline this as another race that fixed odds players might look to get stuck in on. Not very often that we just both want one with a horse that's not going to be, shades of odds on. Dr. Wysong listed at 7-2 in the morning line betting. I wouldn't be surprised if you can get something around there when the fixed odds market's open if you act quickly. I think the price will come in if you wait until post time. We have one more race left on the show. It is Golden Gate Fields, race number 9. 8:40 is the scheduled post time for this one. 5.5 on the all-weather. 4 and up maiden special weights. JK, let's go out on a winning note. Who you want to use here?
Yeah, I want to use the 1 and the 6. The 1 I think is pretty obvious. Ran well last time at this level on this surface. Not crazy about the inside draw, but this one has a little experience. The speed figures fit just fine in a group where the speed figures aren't particularly fast. I liked Indian Error, and then also the 6 Square Root for kind of for Doug O'Neill, but for Leandro Mora, obviously Doug O'Neill is serving a suspension, so Leandro is listed. But this is a horse that hasn't really done a ton of running. But instead of dropping this horse for 40, which they probably could downstate at Santa Anita, they decide, let's give this horse another chance protected, maiden special weight on the synthetic surfaces at Golden Gate, assuming that would be an easier spot in the maiden special weights they've been running in. They've tried turf sprinting this horse. The figures are just okay. I just think Square Root is probably a little bit better than you would assume. It just feels like if they felt like this horse didn't have any talent, they would drop the horse and move on. But continuing to bang on the maiden special weight door tells me there might be a little something there.
We have the same top pick. I'm with number 1, Indian Era. I felt like mid-moved into what was a pretty quick pace, had a little trouble in the lane, and as you pointed out, just fits with this group and should get a good forward trip in the spot. I have a different second horse to mention. For me, I'm interested in the 4 Cowboy Kisses, looking to have a wire chance. Totally take your point that a lot of times when you got those front runners in the stretch at Golden Gate, you're looking to the outside of the screen to see who's going to come beat you. But this one has a couple of interesting angles. And I think the fact that it's 5.5 instead of the 6 where Cowboy Kisses has been running could be helpful. This one's carved out red fractions twice in a row on Timeform US. I think has that wire chance. You make a good point about reasons to throw in the 6 as another number. For me, it's 1-4. Did you have any others you wanted to mention in here?
I thought the 3 was a B type. First-time starter for a trainer's 14% in the career with first-time starters. Taking, the morning line is right down in there. And so I just felt like, the horses that have run didn't really move me other than the 2 that I was interested in. So if there's a nice percentage there, I didn't have any problem using the 3 Terry's Boy.
All right, good stuff. We will hopefully be taking down, we'll get the Stronach 5 today. We'll get our NCAA tournament off to a good start, and we'll keep it rolling with a lot of good advice for racing across the country on Saturday. Really, you on TV this weekend?
Yeah, we're just on Sunday though. I think a big sports day has Fox a little bit backed up on Saturday, so we will be in the mix come Sunday, and then obviously back next week as well.
Check JK out there. I am off this weekend. I got a fantasy baseball draft and a taekwondo tournament. Not competing. I am coaching essentially. It's kind of funny actually. We're going to use the bunker as her virtual tournament space. You can't see it because it's behind the camera, but I got the mats laid down. I'm just going to swivel the camera, turn the lights around, and boom. Hopefully, Perrin will acquit herself and her dojo quite well in this taekwondo tournament. Have you, has Austin gotten into the martial arts scene at all? I have to say it's pretty cool.
Yeah, we've been talking about jiu-jitsu. We've been watching a lot of MMA as of late, and he really likes to practice MMA on Dad. And
I was going to say maybe jiu-jitsu is the last thing you want. You might, tell him he can't watch his show, and he'll put you in a chokehold or something.
Yeah, I'm trying to redirect that energy because man, that brother, I wake up some days like I got hit by a train.
Got to be careful. Yeah, go for one of the more defensive-minded martial arts. That's definitely my advice as far as that goes. Anything else cooking this weekend? Anything else you want to tell the people before we get out of here?
I think that's it. Yeah, enjoy the Stronach 5 today if you see this, and enjoy Santa tomorrow, and here we go.
Good stuff. All right, one more time. Well, thank you, JK. We'll thank the ever-popular Frank McGoey. For more from him, check out this new episode of In the Money Plus. He gives his thoughts on the first 8 races on the Fairgrounds card over there, inthemoneypodcast.com/plus. You also get little digests of all the shows with the picks, so you don't have to take notes. And we don't encourage this, but if you're too busy to listen, you can always get the info through that as well. Let's do some thank yous. Thanks to our friends over at the Thoroughbred Retirement Foundation. Our new whiskey is sitting in the barrel, not too far away from getting that going. Hopefully we can really ramp up the donations. But we encourage folks to give throughout the year, including now, to support their mission, helping humans, helping horses. trfinc.org/players. Also, shout out to our friends in the purple and black, 10 Strike Racing. We always root for them and are excited. Got a new project we're going to be hopefully cooking up with them soon as well. Thanks most of all to all of you, the listeners, the viewers. You make these shows, so much fun to do. This show has been a production of In the Money Media. Our business manager is Drew Coatney. Our chief creative officer is Jonathan Kitchen. Oh, you know who I forgot to thank is producer Greg. How can I do that to the man over there, pushing all the right buttons as usual, DJ Unstable himself. I'm Peter Thomas Fornatale. May you win all your photos.